How's it going? I'm Evan from StandUpPaddleSurf.net, and
I'm Robert with BluePlanetSurf.com.
Okay, so let's recap.
So in the first 2 episodes on stand-up paddle surfing, we talked about the etiquette, where to go, what not to do, basically. Preparing a little bit in flat water, practicing for going stand-up surfing, learning some basic skills, and then how to get out through the waves and getting out into the right position. And so today we're going to talk about catching the waves and what to do when you're on the wave. So first of all, I would say maybe we should talk a little bit about where to position yourself. The positioning and timing is probably one of the hardest things to learn as a beginner. When so people that have surfed all their lives, they know that where to go, what to do, and the timing and stuff like that. But somebody who's good, even if they're very good stand-up paddlers, if you've never been out in the surf, the hardest thing to learn probably is the timing and the where to place yourself and how to catch a wave. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
I tell you, the easiest and best way to do that is go with a friend who's familiar with the break, or go make friends, because that is by far the easiest. Because what happens is there is a technique where you can see who's catching all the waves and then go right next to them, but it's a little bit creepy because all of a sudden you're like next to them all the time, and it's like you're stalking them. It's a little bit weird. So the best is to go with a friend or make a friend. That's what I say.
Yeah. And and every spot is different too. So every place has like a different takeoff zone, different, like in every day is different. Like in a bigger day you have to be further out, and on a smaller day further in, and it might be sectioning differently or breaking in a different place, and the direction of the swell makes a difference. So sometimes it's good just to, when you get out there, just sit off to the side, sit down on your board. If you're always standing up, it's kind of imposing too. I mean, like if you're just sitting down and then just watch everybody else, and that's kind of a good way to kind of slowly, get into the peak. You don't want to just paddle straight out to the point peak and then try to catch the first wave that comes. You want to just kind of sit off to the side a little bit, watch other guys, watch them where they take off. Watch the best guys catching waves, and then also, like, if you're further out, you have to catch the biggest set of the wave, right? Then because you're only getting, like, if you're at the very outside of the break. On the inside, you can catch the smaller ones, but the downside is then that you kind of take the bigger ones on the head, right? You're right in the impact zone where the bigger ones break. So it's kind of tricky. A lot of times when I take people out stand-up surfing for the first time, they tend to go too far out because it was kind of scary on the inside, so I'm going to just wait way outside. But if you wait way outside, you basically have to catch the biggest bomb of the set, So if you're kind of too scared to be on the inside, you're not going to catch anything further outside, because then you're not going to be able to catch the big one.
Plus, if you're a beginner, I don't know, if you're trying to catch something on the outside, you might catch it on the head. You know what I mean?
That's so it's better to actually kind of wait maybe on the channel side, but be on the inside, but be close to the channel. So when the big set comes, you can paddle over into the channel. If there's a channel, that's kind of the kind of location where you want to paddle at, is kind of being off to the side a little bit is a good strategy in the beginning. Yeah.
I'd say I'm going to digress a little bit.
Okay.
What I find that even for the most experienced people is they spend their time on the beach first. So surfing wise, they'll be on the beach and scope it out from the beach. Like, where is it breaking? What do the conditions look like? Who's catching waves? Where are they going? What's the swell direction? How often is it coming in? Is it dangerous? Are there jellyfish, depending on where you're at? What's going on for the day? And they spend time talking to people on the beach, and then a lot of times decide if they're going to go out. Now, if it's really good conditions and they're already familiar, then people tend to just kind of go. But I find that doing your homework on the beach first is kind of a smart thing to do, and you see just about everyone doing it. That's how it goes, right? We're watching, and then the guys are watching, and you go over there, hey, how's it looking? What's it looking like today? And people are giving you their 2 cents, and you kind of make your game plan from there before you hit the water. So I think some of that preparation is super important, especially if you're a beginner, because the local knowledge from the people on the beach is going to be far greater than what you're going to have coming into this situation, no matter how good you are.
Yeah. And if you go into a new spot that you've never been to before, always ask the locals, like, what do I need to know? Like, there's a lot of times there's shallow spots or reefs sticking out somewhere, or currents, things like that. So you just got to know or learn what you need to know, and the conditions are super important. And then, you know, I have some friends that like will spend the whole day driving from one spot to the other looking for the perfect spot and then not going surfing the whole day after driving around for 6 hours. So, but
we've done it where we're meeting and we're supposed to go out and we don't go.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's not worth
go
going.
Eat breakfast instead.
Sometimes it's not worth going out, you know. But but a lot of times it's once you get out there, it's actually better than it looks from the beach too, you know. So it's like, you know, sometimes you just got to go, you know, and then have fun and make the most out of it, you know. So instead of trying to find the perfect spot, you know.
I think too that you mentioned something super important: the tide and the rip current, and then wind, because a lot of places
wind direction
in Hawaii, it's offshore winds, and if you don't pay attention to that, when you first go out, you will be suffering, because what happens is you get out really quickly and it's easy. And then you got a super hard time coming back in, especially if it's rough out there and so on. It becomes really hard to get back in, and people tend to have problems with that. So
and
wind is something you really got to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and the offshore winds is usually like it can be pretty calm on close to the beach, but once you get out, the further out you get, the windier you get. So if you get blown out, then once you get out there, it can be a lot more windy outside than it was on the beach.
Remember last year? Was it in 2015 or 2014? There was somebody that was either on a kayak or on a stand-up in Waikiki and then ended up at like Barber's Point. What is that, like 20 miles away or something?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And he lost his paddle and then decided to just kind of sit on the board or something.
So that is a prime situation of do your homework first and make sure you're safe.
It can be super dangerous, especially the offshore winds and not people, you know, you got to make sure someone knows what you're doing too.
Yeah.
Maybe it watches for you if you're doing it first time. But okay, so let's assume you found a good spot. You kind of check the conditions, you talk to some locals, you know where to go. And then you get out there and you're exactly in the right place where the waves are breaking. You're not too far out. You're not too far inside. There's a perfect wave coming for you now. So now what do you do to catch that wave? So one thing that, you know, if you've ever surfed on a prone board, what you do is then you turn your board towards the beach. You paddle straight in as hard as you can. And then, you know, as soon as you feel the wave pushing you, then you stand up and surf it, you know. So on a stand-up board, it's a little bit different because you're paddling on one side. So as soon as you start paddling on one side, especially from a standstill, your board's going to yaw a lot, you know, unless you have, you know, really
means it turns.
Yeah, your board starts turning, you know. So you have to have good techniques to start with so you can control the amount of turning your board does, you know, by controlling your paddle stroke, either more forward stroke or even like a little bit of a pulling stroke or a turning stroke. But what works really well when the wave's coming towards you, if you're kind of waiting parallel to it and paddle, like get some speed parallel to it and then turn into the wave as it's coming. So then as the wave reaches you, you're paddling on one side and you're turning into it. So then as the wave reaches you, you're going the right direction. So basically what you want to have is the wave and your board have a right angle when you're catching at the moment the waves right on you or behind you. So if you're turning at the right speed into it, and you should be right at a right angle to the wave as you're catching it. What happens a lot of times is people, you know, paddle on one side and they switch sides and switch sides and switch sides and they're going like this as they're trying to catch the wave, and then it's really hard to be at the right angle when the wave catches you. So when the wave comes and you're kind of diagonal to it, you're not going to catch it. Basically.
Well, that's when they fall too, right? Because it goes like this and it goes sideways like that. The wave pushes the tail this way and then flip.
Right.
So
and then if you're switching sides with the paddle at the moment the wave's hitting you, then you're going to lose too much momentum to catch.
It's the same thing on downwinders. It's like that and flip.
Yeah.
You get a little flip.
So that's a good thing to practice too, and that's where pivot turns are helpful, where, you know, you learn how to control the speed of your turn. You can turn it very quickly if you have to, or turn it more slowly with stroke technique and things like that. So that's where practice can help a lot, but then kind of getting a feel for turning into the wave and the timing is really important, you know.
I think for beginners, the thing to think about is when we are catching a wave as a beginner, the nose of the board has got to get over the front of the wave and then it can drop in. So that's kind of the primary thing, is to get that nose of the board to drop into the front of the wave, and then you're in, then you can figure out, are you turning, or are you not turning, or so on, right? That's when the foot placement becomes really important, because when Robert's talking about as the wave comes like this, and if you're turning, as the wave is like this, and as you're turning into it this way, typically we're going into kind of a 45-degree kind of surf stance, or almost full surf stance, and already into that stance as we're taking the last hard strokes to get in on that wave, because that way when the board does this, then you don't fall off the back. And that's kind of really typical. What'll happen is you'll feel it. The board will go, the wave will come under like this. It comes from behind and it kind of lifts you up like this, and then you get that little burst, right? And you feel that also when you're on a downwinder and you're trying to catch the little bumps. You feel that little burst, and that little burst is a good time to time the strong paddle. So it lifts the tail up, and then that little burst, and that's when you go paddle hard with the with that little burst to get into the wave, and then you can use your paddle as a brace and so on and make your turns. But I find that's why when we look at people that are really good and it almost looks effortless, like it almost looks like, dude, they even paddle to get into that thing. They're just like, whoo, and in. Their timing and how they're determining the what do you call it, the pitch of their
weight,
board. Their weight
the
distribution, and when they applied power is fully in sync with where they should be, and it's like looks like it's effortless, and that's kind of like beautiful looking.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in the right spot at the right moment, all you need is like 1 or 2 strokes to catch a wave, you know.
Yeah.
But other times, if you're further out and there's a wave, like a slopey wave coming, then you have to paddle really hard to get it, you know. So it depends on, you know, if you're really close to the lip of the wave and on the steep part of the wave, then it doesn't take a lot of effort to catch it. And sometimes you actually don't want to paddle too hard before the wave comes, because then you're going to end up too far inside and you're not going to be in the right place anymore. If the wave already breaks behind you and it's white water, it's much harder to catch it than before it breaks.
Right.
I mean, basically the goal is to catch it right before it starts to break.
Just before it starts to break, so you can ride the face, right?
And then a lot of times people ask, when should I switch my stance, you know, and like Evan said, it's good to kind of get in a little bit of a diagonal stance before the wave hits you or before the wave comes. But it really depends also, like I said, if you're further out and there's like a slopey wave coming, sometimes it's good to stay more forward on your board and paddle really hard. And then once you feel it like pushing you, then move back into the surf stance. Other times when the wave's really steep and it's coming behind you, you almost have to be on the tail at the moment you're catching the wave. You know, if you move back too early though and you sink the tail, then you're not going to catch the wave. But you want to kind of move back before you start accelerating, really. So basically what happens a lot to beginners is they catch the wave, the board starts to accelerate, and they're still in the parallel stance, so then they just fall backwards, like the board just slips out underneath them. Yeah. That's kind of the sensation people always say, oh, the board just slipped out underneath me.
Plus, if your paddle's too long, that's what's gonna happen. It's gonna be way up here, and you're gonna fall off the back all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So So
easiest way around this, just take a lesson. Yeah, go have somebody who knows how to surf and is doing lessons, and a good teacher take you out there and work with you on it. Because once you get kind of the general idea, then it's just about practicing. You know if you're in the right spot, not in the right spot. It's just practicing at that point.
And a lot of it is just about being in the right place and having the right timing. And that's where having a lesson helps a lot, because then the instructor can tell you, okay, we're going to wait right here. We're going to be patient. Okay, see that wave over there? That's the second one. We're going to try to catch that one, you know, and then turn into it and be, you know, to make sure you're positioned in the right place and have the right timing. And once you get that figured out and you catch a couple, then, you know, you should be able to do it on your own as well. But in the beginning, that's probably the hardest part, being in the right place at the right time and things like that. My goal when I do a stand-up surfing lesson or coaching, I don't really even call it lesson. I call it like surf guide. I take people out and I guide them to the right place and I basically try to teach people how to catch waves on their own.
Like a tour guide.
Like a tour guide, yeah. But versus some other lessons, you know, where the instructor will be in the water and kind of pushing the people into the wave on their knees and then, okay, now stand up or whatever, you know. So that to me is... they're going to have maybe a quicker feeling of success because they catch a wave right away and they can surf it, you know. But to me, that then they kind of miss they don't get the lesson on how to catch the wave, you know. And if you can't catch a wave on your own and you need to get pushed into it, then you can't really surf on.
You can't just paddle out and go, hey, excuse me, hi, how's it?
Yeah.
Can you push me into waves?
Yeah.
You could do that if you're a really good looking girl.
Yeah.
You know, if you're some hot woman or something, like, oh, excuse me, can you push me in the waves? And all the dudes are like, I got it.
Yeah. So
if we went out like Beat it, dude.
Yeah, right.
Get out of here, Goog.
Unless you pay someone a lot. But yeah, so basically the goal for me in the lesson is to...
Can I go out and you push me? Can we do that? You get big arms after that.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, but basically, the goal is to like learn how to do it on your own. And if somebody just pushes you into a wave, you're not, you can tell people that you know how to surf, but you don't really know.
Yeah.
Because the hardest part is not standing up on the board when you're somebody pushed you into it, but actually catching it and figuring out the location and timing to catch a wave on your own.
I remember when I first started doing this, and then Jeff Chang sold me the C4 paddle, and he says, "Oh, you're tall. I'm just gonna glue it together." And it was like 88 inches long or whatever, so it's super long. And he said, "Oh, I don't have any boards, so just go to Waikiki and rent one." So I rented a longboard, an 11-foot soft top, which is like 25 really inches narrow and round and so on. So I was out there. I'm like, dude, I can't do this. I couldn't stand for more than like 2 seconds. Plus the paddle's so high above my head, I kept falling off the back. And I remember this guy out there, one of the Beach Boys named John, he comes over and he goes, "Man, don't worry about this. Even monkeys fall out of trees." And he helped me out, and that made the biggest difference. So I think that especially as you get into this, and then as you get better, try to help other people out. And remember how it was in the beginning, because in the beginning, if I didn't have that 20-hour rule, I'd have quit. I mean, the first 6 hours I couldn't even stand on that thing. The only way I could stand on it, plus it was a surfboard, is John came over, put his surfboard down like this, and he put my board on top like that. He goes, "Okay, now stand on it. This is how you feel." He said, "Your paddle looks kind of long." My paddle now I use is about 79 inches. That paddle was like 88 inches or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that was kind of old school. Like it used to be the paddles
9.5 inch
longer,
blade.
Yeah, longer and bigger. Yeah, bigger blades. And once everyone had shoulder injuries, then they realized, maybe we should use a smaller blade and a shorter paddle and softer shafts.
Exactly.
So yeah, because it's not like outrigger paddling where your hand's like right above the blade, but that's kind of what the original paddles are all based on, outrigger paddles, Plus the outrigger, especially a one man, is so much more efficient in the water. Like to pull it through, it's like so easy. Right.
Compared to a stand up, which is all flat and
different
planing.
Leverage,
It's different. Yeah.
So, okay, so let's finish this up real quick. So once you're on the wave, let's talk really quick about what you're doing once you're surfing it. So basically you have to get into the surf stance to be able to control your back to front balancing. So you're in the surf stance, you're riding. Basically the goal is to turn down the wave and basically follow it the way it's breaking. If it's breaking to the left or to the right, you want to kind of angle your board and kind of angle it down the wave. At first, you're not going to do like top to bottom turns, and we're not going to talk about doing like a hard bottom turn, hard off the top. But that's kind of eventually your goal to like surf it. But right now, it's just more like turning it into the direction of so look left and right, which way is the wave breaking, and try to turn your board that way. And to turn the board, you kind of have to get back. Like the further back you get on your board, the easier it's going to be to turn.
But like, how back are you getting compared to where the fins are at?
So, I mean, that's another thing too. If the wave is steep, you want your foot all the way back over the back fin. You want your back foot on top of the fins, basically, and that's where you can
right
turn
on
the
top.
board.
If it's a center fin, you're putting your foot right on top of the middle part of the fin. So if the fin's like here, then your foot's like right here.
Yes, and that's why you have like that little tail kick. On the board, usually you put your foot right against
on the pad.
kick,
you're talking
on
about
the pad. The pad's like on a surfing board. Usually there's a little kick tail on the back. If you put your back foot against that, it should be right over the center fin. Otherwise, that tail pad isn't in the right place. But in that location, you can really pivot and swivel your board on a steeper wave.
That's if your board is fairly narrow tail, though, right? What if you have one of those boards with the really wide tails? You still leaving your foot way in the middle, or are you moving it out? I tend to move it out toward the edge.
On the wider board, you have to move your feet left to right if you're turning. You have to move it to the left to turn left.
Closer
and
to the rail, right?
To turn, yeah. So you have, like on a really wide board, you have to. I mean, even on a narrower board, it just helps to move your feet depending on turning left or right. Put your foot closer to the rail. But right now, the main concern is just kind of angling the board down the line, And then, you know, if the wave's really slopey and not that fast, you kind of have to keep your weight more forward. Otherwise, if you step too far to the tail, or even as you're catching the board, you're just going to sink the tail and you're going to come off the back of the wave. So sometimes if the wave's slopey, you just got to stay forward and maybe keep paddling until that wave gets steeper. And then once you're in the pocket or in the steeper part of the wave, then you can move your weight back. But you don't want to move your weight back before you're kind of really on the steeper part of the wave, because otherwise you're
Plus, you're talking about instead of going straight down, you're not stepping on the back going straight down. You're angling at that point, right?
Right.
Like 45 degree or so, or whatever, to go what we call down the line, right? As instead of like woof, and then the thing, you know, like that, woof, and then the thing just goes to that, and you get hit in the back and fall off. That's kind of typical initially.
Yeah. So kind of usually the wave has like a steep part and then kind of goes down the line basically. So you want to stay right at that steep part of the wave right before it crumbles basically, or it breaks. So
easy way to do that is once you drop in, already turn that angle, and then you can go at it. Yeah. Use your paddle, even whatever is easier.
And then again, if you're catching the wave early before it's breaking, it's good to kind of keep your angle straight. If you're late, then it's better to angle the wave, because otherwise your nose is going to go straight down. If you're dropping in on a steep wave and you got the wave, you know, your board going straight down, is just going to catch. Yeah. So then at that point you want to kind of angle down the face basically.
Plus, when we're on a wave, the upper third part of the wave is where the power is at. So once we get to the bottom part, it's kind of like dull and you get stuck over there. So that's why you watch people kind of continually turning to get to the top part of the wave, and then they ride it down, turn to get to the top part and ride it down. It's constantly staying inside that power area.
Yeah, trimming your board to kind of stay in the steeper part of the wave. Exactly. Yeah, so those are just some basic things to do when you're first stand-up paddle surfing.
It's kind of a lot.
Yeah, a lot of little tips, but yeah.
Easier way, just hit us up on the interwebs and social on our sites or whatever, and then come down, join them for the Wednesday session. There's a lot of people out there. You can learn a lot. And just come down and meet people. Come down to your store or whatever, right?
Yeah.
This community is pretty cool, so people are more than likely willing to help.
Yeah. The best way is just to spend time on the water. That's how you're going to get better.
And make friends.
Make friends and enjoy and have fun.
So that's it for today, huh?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm Evan.
I'm Robert.
Thanks for watching us today on Board Meeting. We'll catch you again on another episode. Please give us a thumbs up.
And subscribe to the channel.
Subscribe. Please leave us a comment, positive comment. We'll answer it. And please come and visit us here in Hawaii. And we'll see you next time.
Aloha. Aloha.
Aloha. I'm Chelsea Harden, Miss Hawaii USA.
I'm Joanna Lee O'Call, Miss Hawaii Teen USA.
And I'm Miss Aloha Maui Outstanding Teen Evelyn Del Valle.
Thanks for watching our board meeting.
Please subscribe
and give us a thumbs up.
Thanks for watching.